Hello and welcome everyone. A new episode of Money Means Business. Today we are going to be discussing a number of economic events which took place in the last 7 days. We are going to speak about a number of meetings, of field visits, of economic statements released by our high-ranking top officials in our economic circle. We are going to speak in detail about all the things, but before going into the details, we are going to have this quick report regarding some statements which were released by His Excellency Minister of Finance, Dr. Mohammed Maid, in addition to some of the steps taken by the state to implement our economic strategies, not only for today or tomorrow, but it's our agenda for the new republic, for Egypt 2030. Right after this, we are going to be back with more, so stay tuned. Welcome back. Let's start immediately as we do have a lot to speak about. First, let me welcome my dear guest live here in the studio, His Excellency Ambassador Ayoub Mahmoud Ayoub, former Minister Commercial. Thank you very much for being with us, sir.
Good evening to you and to the viewers.
As I said, sir, we do have a rich episode, inshallah, and we are going to start with a meeting which took place today with President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi meeting with Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa Madbouli and Minister of Transportation, Engineer Kamel Wazir. The meeting reviewed very important topics regarding our exports, regarding our fully equipped and modernized seaports, regarding the state strategy to have this link between our exports and our seaports, to export and re-export, to boost the transit trade. And we are going to know in detail what's transit trade, because maybe it's relatively a new term for many of our viewers. Last but not least, raising the competitiveness of our products, of our manufactured components, and of instilling our or localizing our industry as also one of the important elements included into our strategy regarding the industrial sector in general.
Yes.
Before going into details, let's go into each of these elements.
Yes.
First, what's transit trade?
Transit trade, we can say as a definition that it is trade between several parties which passes through certain region or country. Egypt has a unique, let's say, geographic location on the northeast part of Africa, adjacent to Asia and also in the Mediterranean. And when we look also that the Suez Canal is another very important transit route for international trade, not regional trade or local trade, for international. So Egypt is well placed and well located to play a role as a transit trade haven for many industries, for trade and for logistical considerations, and also for localizing industry, which is relevant to what the needs of the markets, not only my market, but the foreign markets, which are very near to me, whether in African countries, Arab countries, or in Europe. Egypt has a unique opportunity to create income, create value addition through its location in this part of the world. And it has played this role, and now it is playing it more actively with the interest of President himself to localize industry and to increase the local components in industries, and also to create logistical areas for the transit.
See how many times you repeated the word logistical?
Yes.
Or logistics?
It is very important.
This word was also repeated for many times in the text which was released by the presidency regarding this meeting. And this means that now we know its importance and we are playing the game according to this. If you want to elaborate on that.
Logistical trade or logistics as a whole, if you are making things easier and more effective and at a less cost, which is very important. So we use the infrastructure which has been created, established during the last 10 years. We use the location and also local industry, and the business community in Egypt has a role to play, which is a very important, and the president himself is giving preeminence to the local sector in Egypt to play a role in the logistics and in the logistical trade between, let's say, East and West, between Asia and Europe. And Egypt is the conduit or the pathway or logistical route for all this trade.
Liaison, as the French are saying.
It is playing a very important role. When I say a very important role, when the Suez Canal was blocked after 67 war, we found that the cost of international trade has increased drastically. And when it was reopened in 74, I suppose, we find that the international trade came back, and now we are in 2023 or 24, and Egypt is making very good use of its location and also of infrastructure which we have, and also of the initiatives of the private sector, which is very important.
We're going, of course, to tackle this, but before going into the private sector issue, which is very important, we're going to repeat it more than once, by the way, in our episode.
Yes.
Well, among the steps taken or the issues which were tackled during this meeting, to find solutions for the containers movement, transfer of commodities across the country, in addition to the establishment of a railway road linking Taba to Al Arish as a new logistic access considered as a leap in transferring goods via linking the Mediterranean Sea with Al Aqaba Gulf.
This is a brand new initiative to create interest. We know in the last weeks, let us say, or a couple of months, we have seen Al Arish has been a focus of interest of the government.
Yeah.
This means that
North of Sinai, generally.
which is very important. Where Al Arish is a hub for new business. There are several industries there. There are cement industries there, and putting focus on this part of Egypt is very important, whether from business point of view or trade point of view, or from strategic
security.
Very important from strategic point of view, and we are making use of what we have. We know that there are oil fields and gas fields very near to Al Arish.
Yeah.
So it will be a hub of new economic activity in this area. It began already. And I think that within a few years, excuse me, a few years, we'll see that Al Arish is a new hub, not for Said, but Al Arish will see a lot will happen in Al Arish, because the government is keen to establish a new area of attraction for investment and for localization of industry. So we have a lot of hopes as far as Al Arish is concerned, beside, of course, the golden triangle of Suez Canal.
Yes. Going to the private sector, it was mentioned here as presidential spokesperson, Councillor Ahmed Fahmy, said the meeting reviewed the intensified efforts exerted by the state in collaboration with the Egyptian private sector and foreign investors to establish integrated logistic development access to connect the different production zones currently modernized and fully equipped seaports to turn Egypt into a hub of global logistics and trade.
These are ambitious goals, which can be achieved with the strenuous efforts which are being made, and also the private sector have a role, I say, important and dominant role to play. When I say private sector, I don't mean only local private sector, Egyptian private sector, but also the other the would-be investors coming from Arab countries or from Europe or from other sources. So we have a lot to do during the next few months until the end of the year. We'll see new facts are created on the ground, whether in Al Arish or in Alexandria or in other ports or in Suez Canal area.
Inshallah. Sir, let's go to some good news. I found it very promising, very, coinciding with the ambitious way of the state to look for tomorrow as a bright tomorrow, brighter future for the coming generations. Egypt to open first ever art hotel in 2024. Egypt Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities announced the upcoming opening of a special hotel, which will be the first art hotel. The hotel set to open in early 2024 to have 283 rooms, will be located in the Pyramids Heights area, part of the ongoing redevelopment of the area surrounding the Grand Egyptian Museum. The privately owned company signed the contract with the hotel's chains, and the signing was attended by Giza Governor Ahmed Rashid and Minister of Tourism and Antiquities Ahmed Isa, who spoke about the National Tourism Development Strategy, meaning that this is a full collaboration once again between the state and the private sector, and we are going to see the fruitful results on the ground.
When we say GEM, or Grand Egyptian Museum, this will be a very important event, we'll say, this year, inshallah, when it is reopened. Why? Because they have been 3 or 4 years now working on GEM, and the private company is taking care of everything, and we are very pleased for that, because it's a professional way of doing business as far as this exhibition is concerned. We will see the influx of new tourists heads of states and head of governments are coming and creating a new hub for tourism. It is not only the pyramids, but we have a gem now, which will be a new attraction point because, as it has been explained to us, the gem, you can stay gem for 1 day or 7 days, and every day you see something new, which gives you the story of the Egyptian civilization from prehistory until yesterday. So it will be a very important hub for attracting tourism. And when I say attracting tourism, I mean attracting investment. And you have seen, you have mentioned now, rightly mentioned now, a new hotel which or complex for this respect.
Isa, His Excellency Minister of Tourism and Antiquities Ahmed Isa said Egypt aims to host from 25 to 30 million tourists by the year 2028, meaning in 5 years from now. This is doubling the number we do receive right now, and has been working on expanding the capacity of its hotels to from 14 to 15 million tourists per year, meaning that we do have a plan for the accommodations, for how we are going to host all these tourists, inshallah, and for also the human resources, because simply we have.
Yes. It is very important that before we attract or call tourists to come, we pave the way for them.
Yes.
That is establish the suitable hotels and having the suitable roads, which is access to the area, which is very important. What is being done, we will see after some years. The international tourism to Egypt is about 10, 11 million.
Now it's about 13.
That's good news. Good news. When you say 13, this means that 25 is not too ambitious. Is not too ambitious. It is ambitious, but not too. And it can be achieved. Why it can be achieved? Because I have the infrastructure, I have the gem itself, which by itself is an attraction point, and also the roads to the place and to the location, and the hotels are already being constructed now. All this combination
and
of
we
factors.
are expanding the capacity of hotel rooms. Adding to this, Egypt recently eased tourist visa requirements for several countries, including, and this inclusion, I think it's going to say something, China, India, Morocco, Algeria, of course, Turkey, Iran, you name it. But whenever it comes to China and India alone, we are speaking about billions of people. If we do have only 1 million from each, meaning that only 2 countries are going to visit us in millions.
When we speak about India, China, and Japan, these 3 countries, and maybe South Korea also can add to it. I have worked in India, I have worked in China, and I know very well the capacity and possibilities which are available in these markets now. Because the standard of living in these countries is increasing steadily. This means that the people, when the standard of living and the income is higher, they are able to go tourism for overseas. China and India, specifically these countries, are very important for the Egyptian tourism. Because what we have, although they constructed pyramids in China, but it's something, give an example.
Yeah.
It's just an example. It is not bad thing. And in many cases, we send a piece of our monuments.
As a kind of propaganda.
Yes.
Yes.
It is for marketing.
Yeah.
For market considerations. This means that the feedback is that you mentioned 1 million. I think that we can have more than 1 million from China.
Let's start
from
with
China.
1 million.
Let us start for.
Let's start with 1 million.
Whatever the number is. I will not speak about the numbers now because what is important for me, paving the way for lucrative market, especially from South Korea and Japan, and recently we can add China and also India. I have been in India and they are fond of the Egyptian civilization. Even Australia, where I have been posted for some years, they are fond of Egyptian and they are fascinated by what they rear, and whenever, every day, the new excavations and new discoveries, we need to properly market or promote the new findings and the old one and the gem it will be a
In
very good
addition
hub.
to new types of tourism, sir, if you
Yes.
permit me, it's not only about the cultural tourism. Maybe many of the foreigners, they even, unfortunately, they even know about our civilization more than
More
we
than
do.
we do,
Because
yes.
they do study it in
In
a
the
very
primary school.
and in a
Started,
very
yes.
detailed manner.
Yes.
But even my dear director, Kamil Ali, of course, he was just letting me know or reminding me that we do have the wedding tourism right now. Many
A
Indian
new
tourism,
area.
they were here
Yes.
just to have their wedding here, to tie the knot here. Because they believe that the spiritual atmosphere in the Giza Plateau is
Yes.
going to give them a happier life. For example, this is only an example,
It is,
in addition
it's
to
just an example, yes.
sports tourism, medical tourism, art tourism with our cinema festivals, for example. I mean, now there is
A lot.
diversity of tourism types.
We need to diversify the areas of interest of the would-be tourists. You mentioned wedding events which can be held at the pyramids, and we have seen some of it.
Yes.
And that is a good thing, a good sign. When I hear that a country like Bahrain, for example, they are holding event like this. What is Bahrain? It's very small. But when we are speaking about Egypt, people coming from
It's the pearl of the Gulf.
China,
We love
so
them all, of course.
we love
Yeah.
them very much, but still, my attraction in the Egyptian market or Egyptian monuments is profound and nothing like it.
Amen to
So
that.
a new area, wedding, as you mentioned, conferences, which is very important.
Amen.
And many areas, not only cultural tourism or historical tourism, but rather, as we mentioned now, social tourism, which is a wide area of activities which can be, we can play on it starting from today. When you say that we have a new hotel, a new big hotel, this means that 12 months a year, should be fully booked for the different areas of interest of the would-be tourists who are coming to Egypt to enjoy the weather, enjoy the relatively lower cost, and enjoy the scenery, and also, I will add it, enjoy the Egyptian hospitality, which many people who came to Egypt are like to come back to enjoy the Egyptian hospitality, which is spontaneous from the Egyptians towards especially the foreign tourists. We
Yeah.
have seen a lot of good examples in this respect, and we focus on the good examples and try to expand it in every possible way.
Yeah, amen to that. Let me go to another important event
Yes.
and agreement signed also a few days ago, exactly on Tuesday. Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa Madbouli witnessed the signing of strategic framework between Egypt and the United Nations. The partnership framework is signed from the Egyptian side, of course, by Her Excellency Minister of International Cooperation, Dr. Rania Al-Mashat, and from the UN side by the resident representative of the international organization in Egypt, Elena Panova, I'm sorry. Ushering a new strategic stage of mutual cooperation between Egypt and the United Nations, of course, one of the biggest international organization, the enhancement of benefiting chances from the international strategy between Egypt and the UN regarding projects coming in line with the UN Sustainable Development Goals 2030 and the new Egypt or the new Republic Egypt 2030. Showing confidence in our economy by the UN to sign such a strategic partnership. How do you see it, particularly nowadays with all the negative repercussions the whole world is
Yes.
suffering from?
When we see the strategic plan, when we say strategic is for some years to come, and it reflects when the United Nations is coming to sign strategic plan with the Ministry of International Cooperation, this means that they trust and have confidence in the Egyptian economy, stability in Egypt, and also the attractions which we have. New attractions are seen every day. So there is a lot which can capitalize on as far as tourism is concerned, and as far as new investments are concerned in these areas which are vast. When you mention 25 million, I hope that it will be more than that within the next few years, because the infrastructure is there to accommodate 25 or 30 million tourists every year, inshallah.
Sir, in many occasions, like even that one, when Prime Minister Dr. Madbouli addressed the gathering before witnessing the signing of the agreement, he spoke about how to be transparent enough. Because this is very important. He said the cooperation with the World Bank, for example, is characterized by being transparent and effective, meaning that there is nothing to hide anymore. And in many occasions, whether the president, the prime minister, or any top executive would speak about the negative repercussions the whole world is suffering from under COVID-19 for more than 3 years now, and for a year now, the Russian-Ukrainian war, which negatively, of course, affected the supply chain, the energy, you name it. How do you see now the will to work together to find solutions, and in the same time to be transparent and to admit that there is a problem as a first step in solving it?
This is the point. Admit there is a problem. We will not be able to solve a problem until we admit it and make it transparent as far as possible. Because in many cases, the lack of information from the recipients creates rumors and so on. Transparency is a very important component in the new republic. Transparency, so that there would be investors. I am always looking to investors. I'm always looking to the standard living standard in Egypt. I'm always looking to the employment rates in Egypt, which is very important. All these strategies we are speaking about are aiming to raising the standard of living of the Egyptians, increasing employment or decreasing unemployment, and at the same time creating value addition in established locations, whether in El Arish or in Jem, Grand Egyptian Museum, or even in Luxor and new areas. And will I say, many people come to Siwa, for example, to enjoy the atmosphere, the weather, the Amun temple in El Arish, and I am speaking about
the cave of salt.
A lot.
You name it.
A lot. We have a lot to sell.
Returning back to this agreement with the UN, sir, because I was very keen to know and in detail how Elena Pikova is going to address, Panova is going to address the people, the gathering, how Her Excellency Dr. Rania Al-Mashat is going to address also the gathering. They also focus on a very important point, which is empowering women, and how the state was keen to take this as a priority, one of the priorities we have. And thank God the Egyptian woman, as usual, proved that she is capable of shouldering such responsibilities. How do you see this as a role model? Because the word role model was used by Elena Panova more than once regarding Egypt and particularly the Egyptian woman.
When the United Nations, through its organizations, concludes an agreement, a strategic agreement with Egypt, this means a lot. Because it is giving the world a good example of what can be done with Egypt. Many countries and many organizations and corporations are coming after this signing of this strategic plan. This is one thing. Other thing is that empowering women is something which is dear to our hearts and to our minds, not only to our hearts, but also to our minds, because we have seen a very, very good examples of Egyptian women having a leading position in Canada, in the States, and in Europe, and in Britain. And this means that the Egyptian woman is able, and she has proved herself in every respect she has been tested in. And this is something which should be highlighted and should be given enough space to compete with men. It is very important that they should compete on
I'm sorry for the interruption, sir, but here I'm speaking about the simple woman.
Yes.
The woman who is responsible financially for her family. And this is such a percentage here in Egypt.
Yes.
And when it comes to the countryside, to the remote areas, you are going to find it on equal foot with men. And this was said, or this was admitted or announced or praised, loaded, you name it, by all the top high-ranking officials I mentioned. Now it's really easy to say that we can trust women for leading her own business. If you want to elaborate on that, to be role models once again for the youth, for those who are going to start their own career or their own future.
We are very pleased to see that the new generation, which both women and men, are playing an important role in development of in many sectors, not only economy but also social life and the economy and the foreign policy, and a lot. We have seen a lot of activities done, especially by women. Why say especially by women? Because previously they did not have the opportunity to play this role. Now they have it, and they are playing it very well, efficiently, and achieving successes in many areas, which is highly acclaimed not only by the local in Egypt, but also internationally. That is why, when you say that, United Nations, when she is sending her representative to Egypt, she's a woman, she's a lady.
Yeah.
And she's with
And the one
Rania
who signed the
Al-Mashrat.
agreement
Yeah.
with her, our minister,
Yes,
Lady
she's a lady,
Rania
another lady.
Al-Mashrat. Yes.
Another successful lady who are doing a lot as far as developing economy in every possible way. Tourism is one important part of this process, and also industry and localizing industry and using the logistical position of Egypt to play a role in increasing the value addition as far as our economy is concerned. Thanks to the women, thanks to each person, each who is working positively to create new areas of interest, of income to the Egyptians.
To echo what you have said, sir, regarding the Egyptian or the state's strategy regarding our economy, taking into consideration that the low-income brackets are not going to suffer more, or at least they are not going to think that they are forgotten or marginalized. Hayat Karima, Decent Life Initiative, it's really serving more than 50 million Egyptians. Yes. And there are other things which are made or followed up by the president himself a day after the other. Yes. For example, today there was another important meeting with the presidential advisor for urban planning, Major General Amir Said Ahmed, and the head of the Social Insurance Authority, Gamal Awad, regarding the modern digitalization of the social insurance archives, and to follow up with all efforts exerted to introduce an integrated, comprehensive social insurance services to pensioners and to all beneficiaries nationwide.
So what is called marginalized sector of the economy now is, we shed light on it. That is to raise the standard. In many cases we find that the mother or the woman is the mainstay or the backbone of the family, whether in the countryside or in many situations which you have seen even in the cities, when the father is not there for this or that reason, and she is the Minister of Finance, Minister of Interior, and Minister of, let us say, many things which she plays with devotion. And it is reflected on the kids. When we see in the many literacy projects which are initiated in the countryside, that women it is attracting women more than men. This means that there is a keen interest between the Egyptian women to play a role and take its fair share in development of the economy and in social development in Egypt. This is one thing. Other thing is that which is very important. What we are seeing in the countryside is a good example of the capacities and the capabilities which are not completely tapped. There is a lot which they do, which they can do, and which we hope when the government itself is encouraging women. I'll say encouraging women because the men are there already.
Yes.
So they are encouraging women to play a role or vital role or let's say positive role as far as the family is concerned, the community is concerned, and as far as the economy is concerned. Now we see many businesswomen are working efficiently, whether in Egypt or overseas, and we are very pleased that some of them are millionaires or billionaires, whatever. It gives a pleasure for us because this means that there is a lot which you can do, and has been done, and the women are playing a role which had to be increased, this role by women in the community.
Sir, let's go to this time some statements which were released by His Excellency Finance Minister Mohammed Maid. They were released today as on the sidelines of the Islamic Development Bank annual meeting. Our minister met with the UAE Minister of State for Financial Affairs Mohammed Hadi Al Husseini, and the coming statements were released by our minister today. Egypt is dealing with the compound global crises with a package of integrated economic measures to support the Egyptian economy, incentivize investment, production and exportation to realize the optimal use of state resources and infrastructure. The measures and reforms adopted by the government to empower the local and foreign private sector contributes to a swift return of the Egyptian economy to strong and sustainable growth.
It is a ray of hope. It is a ray of hope. When we see that the growth rate in Egypt was 4.5, 4.1 for last year, this means that there is a lot. When we see other countries after the COVID and after the Ukrainian war, many countries are standing still. They are not growing enough,
yes,
or at a very low growth rate. When in Egypt is 4.1%, this means there are a lot which has been done on the ground, and also at the same time, a lot is being prepared, as we mentioned now, Al Arisha and the economic zone in Suez Canal, and also Western Desert is main attraction point for new investors. I've seen that in Marsa Matruh. The governor there is making every possible way to create or attract investment in Marsa Matruh. So the officials or governors or whatever are playing a very important role, and the backbone of this effort is the role of women in our community. And even in Marsa Matruh, I've seen women working very diligently and enthusiastically to create attraction point for new investors in Marsa Matruh and in Siwa.
All over Egypt.
Yes.
And sir, also, I think it's now very normal when we see the President or Prime Minister Madbouli in a trip anywhere in the world, you would find on the sidelines of the main issue, they are going to have many other meetings, whether with businessmen or with the Commerce Chamber in this state or in this country they are visiting. Last but not least, even I want to really mention that because I was really happy when I know that Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa Madbouli, when he was in London to attend the coronation ceremony of King Charles III, he had many other meetings on the sidelines of the huge event, and he said that all his counterparts from all over the world and the high-ranking officials he met with, they really were very interested to come and to attend the inauguration ceremony of the gym, meaning that this journey, this voyage of the Prime Minister was also as a kind of propaganda for the coming huge event, and with inviting his counterparts, this is going to be another way to say Egypt is back to its position in the whole world, not only even in the Middle East or in the Med region.
The Prime Minister, he went for the coronation, but in fact, the biggest part of his trip to London was business meetings with heads of states, CEOs of some companies, and would-be investors to come to Egypt and he is marketing Egypt. He is selling a good image of the economy and the near future in this country. So it was an important initiative of the Prime Minister to go to London. It is not only for coronation, but rather coronation of new investment in Egypt. And we are very pleased that a lot of them came after that, and we will see that in the GEM, in inauguration of GEM this year, inshallah. And we will see a lot of tourism, and we'll see the influx in tourism starting from the second part of this year, starting from July, August, or September. We'll see the results of the visits of Prime Minister to London and his meetings with
in addition to all the procedures made to facilitate all the procedures in front of the investors, whether Egyptians, Arab, or foreigners, to pave the way for a new investment environment, to make sure that when they are going to come, they are going only to focus on their activities, not on any bureaucratic procedures, or to think that they are going to have time to get their licenses or stuff like that. Now the case is totally different. How do you see the importance of this?
It is very important. Why? Because when investors look to the time frame and the cost which he will endure in creating a business and generating income in this big market. When I say big market, I'm speaking about 110 million consumers and access to other markets, so in Africa or in Arab countries. So the investors are coming to stability, clarity, or transparency, as you mentioned, and also the many opportunities which were not utilized yet. There is a lot of investment opportunities in Egypt which are now open thanks to the transparency, thanks to the Prime Minister, who are doing it in a very efficient way and a professional way, and also the President himself is giving his directions to the Prime Minister, make it easier for the investors to come invest in Egypt and have their profits. And very important that they can transfer their profits overseas, and we are seeing a lot of good examples which are happening already now.
A win-win situation all the time.
Yes, and so this process began, and we will see a lot during the next few months and years. We are seeing a lot as far as new investment is concerned, and we have hopes that investment will increase.
We all hope so, and we all hope that all wars are going to have an end, all conflicts are going to have an end, because we want to live together on this planet in peace. Well,
peace is possible, yes.
Yeah, it's possible, and there's all the time a place for everyone. Our planet is not a small one. It's vast, it's wide enough to absorb us all. Well, sir, thank you very much for your input. It's always a pleasure to have you in our episodes.
Thank you.
We were very much delighted to have with us live here in the studio His Excellency Ambassador Mahmoud Ayoub, former Minister Commercial. Now we are going to end our episode with an infographic of Egyptian exports. Next time, inshallah, we are going to be meeting you in the very same time in another episode of Money Means Business. With all my love, this was Nirmina Abdurrahman.